What's up, Red Fam? I'm so excited for this video because not only is it combining a movie I love, Bird Box, but it's also combining my love of like theories and like Easter eggs within movies, so I'm really pumped. I was so excited to watch Bird Box that I literally watched it the second, okay, maybe not the second, like the minute that it was available to watch. Honestly, I could make a video on why I love this movie so much, but I'm not going to do that. Instead, we're going to focus on fun theories about the mysteriousness of the movie and a couple Easter eggs that blew my mind when I found them out. So let's get to it. We're going to start off with the Easter egg first because it seriously blew my mind and I just read about it. For those who have watched the film, will all recall the scene where our beloved Tom attempts to drive Mallory, Charlie, Lucy, and Douglas to the supermarket to get some supplies. They blacked out the windows and used the parking sensors and GPS to make their way to the store. On the way, they hit a ton of curbs, parked cars, and dead bodies. When Tom runs over a dead guy lying in the middle of the road, the crunching sound that echoes through the car is honestly one of the worst moments of the film. Yeah, that moment was not for the queasy of stomach. It was pretty gnarly. But did you notice who Tom happened to run over? It wasn't just a random body. I would have never in a million years have figure this out, what we're about to read right now. Just before Tom rolls the wheel over the head of the dead guy on the ground, the camera gives us a very clear shot of two bodies lying next to each other on the floor. In the foreground, a man in some tan chinos, gray shirt, and a blue jacket. And in the background, a woman wearing white and pink can be seen. Do you recognize those two people? No? Well, me neither, because like they were in the movie for like a total of a minute. So now you're reminded of that visual. Cast your minds back to the very first moment Mallory arrives in the house. When she arrives with Tom and Lucy, Douglas, Felix, Cheryl, and Greg, Charlie, and an unnamed married couple are already inside the house. A few minutes later, the couple gets a phone call from their kids and they both rush to leave the house. Douglas warns them not to go because they will die the second they step outside, but they both leave anyway, slamming the door on their way out, like any good parents would. And now it looks like Douglas was right again because those dead bodies on the road is the couple that left the house, who only managed to make it 1 block away from the house before they were killed. Isn't that crazy? Who would have recognized those dead bodies that you only see for like a couple frames, and then of the couple you only saw for like a minute or two in the movie? The fan theories we're covering today are going to be a mix of trying to explain whatever it, the evil creature thing is, as well as maybe like the symbolism in the movie and what the movie means. The movie could be about the fears that come with becoming a new parent. Mallory is a fierce mother to children she hasn't even named through most of the movies. Although we're able to observe that she thinks she's doing her best to protect them, most people give their children names of some sort. Even though she called them boy and girl, and you get why she did that, you know, she didn't want to have like an attachment to them. I mean, she already did, you know what I mean? And like by calling them boy and girl, that is a name. So I didn't really get that. Eventually Mallory does this as well. She does name them at the end of the movie when they get to the school and they talk to the doctor. Only when she believes they're safe does she feel that she can take this more conventional step. Ian Sandwell wrote for The Digital Spy. Largely though, like the book, Bird Box isn't concerned with exposition about what the Force is and is more about Mallory learning to accept she's a parent along with all the fears that come with it in the post-apocalyptic world. Because if you're thinking parenting is tough, try doing it blindfolded. That makes sense, right? So the blindfolding, like the whole going in blind expression to parenthood, if you've never been a parent before, like it is scary. You're navigating unexplored waters, which like this picture is kind of like quite literally, so that's very interesting. I don't think this is what the movie entirely is supposed to be about. There's definitely symbolism there, and of course in the beginning of the movie when you saw that she was very hesitant to become a parent, I definitely think that is a huge part of the movie, but I wouldn't say it's the basis of the movie. Now this next one is one that I really didn't think about until my mom and Kasich pointed out about the conversation that the novelist had towards the beginning of the movie. Another possibility is demons. Those malevolent creatures love wreaking havoc, whatever. And if they can drive humans to harm themselves or each other, so much the better, according to this theory. This is from a Redditor. Using the hint given to us at the beginning of the movie by Charlie, the novelist, the creatures were most likely a religious-related plague brought upon by humanity itself. An appropriate label for those creatures are fallen angels, or more commonly, demons. I really didn't think too much about the conversation they had with the novelist. I kind of just thought he was just coming up with ideas that were cool, but they weren't well explored, I guess. I feel like they intentionally left it very ambiguous so that people wouldn't get too hung up on the specifics of whatever it was, which is so funny because like human nature is going to do the polar opposite, and we're going to speculate on every mystery and clue we can to try to piece together the puzzle because we want to know answers. In the Bible, demons are described as creatures so conceptually foul and inherently incorrect that humans would simply go mad had they ever been subject to directly looking at such an impossibly horrid entity. Oh my gosh, I didn't know that. This makes this theory sound like right. In the film, this theme is painfully evident. Those who catch even the slightest glimpse of the creatures are instantly driven mad, swiftly taking their own life, as if this horrific form they see essentially ruins their lives to such an extent that, in order to relieve themselves of such a nightmarish image, the affected are driven to the point of clinging to suicide for salvation for what they've just witnessed. That's where it loses me a little bit, just because we have seen some of the people, especially like the wife that goes to help Mallory at the beginning of the movie, and then she like goes and steps in like the car that's on fire. Ugh. She was saying how she saw her mom and she didn't want her mom to leave. So I feel like if she just so badly could not deal with the image that she saw, she would be like screaming out in like pain or terror. As for those like Gary who are able to look directly at those creatures and are seemingly enslaved by the image, it fits perfectly with the notions of demons enslaving humans in order to further destroy humans. It's explained in the Bible that the demons' hatred for humans is so potent that because they do not have the authority to touch us personally, they seek the next best option, which is trickery, in order to achieve a self-destructive humanity. Oh my goodness, okay. And then it circles back into completely making sense. This next theory is about biochemical warfare, which is something I had actually theorized while watching the movie in the very beginning, because like as we were watching, we were trying to guess like what it was, because you couldn't see it, you know? This is what John Malkovich's Douglas theorized near the film's opening. He blames it on North Korea, but there's no indication that this is actually true. Still, it remains a possibility. Perhaps a global enemy released some sort of chemical agent that drove people insane and suicidal so that they could wipe out large portions of the population without destroying the planet. Although this doesn't make a ton of sense. As we've seen on the news, the creature's arrival isn't contained to one country. And in the books, we also see that it drives animals mad, which would kill off food supply. It really does not hold any merit when you think about like specific details, right? Like the person dying through looking at it through the security cam footage, like how would that work, you know? And then also when you see like the trees move, like there's some sort of entity that you can't see is actually there, as well as like the hair standing up and like the leaves moving. So like this theory really doesn't make sense, but in the beginning of the movie it is a cool concept, and if you like this concept and haven't seen The Happening, I highly suggest you go watch that. This next theory suggests it's something to do with cyclomatic hysteria, which is an interesting idea. Mass hysteria is an actual thing that has occurred in our world. You should really look it up. There's some crazy Wikipedia articles about mass hysteria. I mean, some people like would even consider like the Salem witch trials an example of mass hysteria. Let's read how they try to make this one make sense. There are thousands of documented cases, which means it's technically possible something like this occurred on a larger scale in the Bird Box universe. Perhaps current events or the threat of climate change disrupted psyches, so much so that humanity started turning on itself, leading to an outbreak of sorts. I think if we didn't see like physical changes in people, like the changes in the eyes, as well as like the movement in the air and the leaves and the hair standing up when it's near, I would be more inclined to believe this theory, or at least think, ooh, there's something there. But it kind of falls apart again when you look at the details. Still, a really cool idea, and it is a very fascinating topic if you want to read about it. It's kind of scary though. It's very scary. You should definitely read about it. Now this fan theory says that what we don't see, like the creature, is actually a Lovecraftian, that's hard to say, a Lovecraftian inspired monster. In the film, it's heavily implied that the clinically insane aren't driven to suicide after seeing the beings, but come away enlightened, which is a very fascinating detail when you think about it. After encountering the monsters, they'll say things like, "It shall cleanse the world," and "I've seen the truth." One of the people who witnessed the creatures and lives to tell the tale is Gary, a survivor in Mallory's refuge home, who draws pictures of black tentacle creatures with white eyes who come from the sky. That's what made me think aliens. I straight up, as soon as I saw that, I was like, oh, no other theory makes sense. It's aliens. But then my mom brought up the clever idea that it wasn't actually aliens he was drawing pictures of. It was evil. And it will look different to different people because we have different definitions of what evil is, right? I thought that was a cool theory that my mom had. Horror legend H.P. Lovecraft was known for toying with the concept of madness in his stories, and his most famous creation, Cthulhu, was a tentacle creature that both drives people mad and inspired cultish devotion, which is exactly what happens to the enlightened in Bird Box. Beings that are too hard to quantify with the human eye are prominent in many of Lovecraft's works. We like to think his obsession with the unknown and what it can do to the mind was an inspiration for Bird Box, or at least a subtle wink at a larger horror mythos. I mean, it sounds like it makes sense, but since I'm not too familiar with Lovecraft's work, I don't really know. But if you're really familiar with it, let me know in the comments, what do you think of this theory? Does it make a lot of sense? Does it hold water? Or do you think it's just, no, it's probably just like a nod? Going off of what I just said about aliens, this next theory theorizes that the creatures are aliens. The apocalypse featured in Bird Box might be the result of an alien invasion. If this is the case, the motivation for the extraterrestrial species seems plain enough. Use humanity's feeble minds as a tool against them, causing Earth's most populous and advanced primates to render themselves extinct. This clears the way for the creatures to move right on in and have the entire planet, the equivalent of a house, hastily abandoned in the middle of the night. Aliens still do make a lot of sense. Now the whole not seeing them thing, but you see like their presence with like the wind shift. I don't know how you would explain that unless they can't be seen with the human eye. Maybe they're from they're an interdimensional species, or they're from some place where like they can camouflage themselves, which I guess would actually make a lot of sense. This next theory is the creatures are actually neutral beings, and I saw that title and I was like, well, what do you mean? What is a neutral being? I can kind of deduce with like simple logic that a neutral being means they don't want to interfere, so they're gonna let the humans do whatever they choose to do once they are presented with the sight of these creatures. But let's read. In the novel, Mallory thinks extensively about the creatures, stirring to find a word that accurately sums up what they are to her. But she ultimately believes they are monsters, but does not question whether or not they see themselves as such. This leads to speculation that the creatures may not be aware of the effect they have on Earth's animals. Do they know what they do? Do they mean to do what they do? If they don't know what they do, they can't be villains. That is a very good point. I mean, like, how can they not know what they're doing? They're seeing these people die. So to say that they're ignorant to the fact would be an interesting argument to make. Yeah, actually, I don't really follow this one at all. Could it be these beings unintentionally drive humans to insanity? Are they merely attempting to make contact, unaware their appearance instills madness in anyone who looks at them? While the creature's behavior seems predatory, perhaps it isn't at all. I mean, I would believe that if the movie only took place in like a week. But the fact that the movie takes place over a course of years, it's kind of hard to buy this one. If you want to go back and rewatch this movie with one of these theories in mind, let me know how it changes your viewing experience, because I think I'm gonna go rewatch this again because this movie was so great. Thank you guys so much for watching today's video. I hope you liked it as much as I liked making it. And until next time, keep with the radness, and I'll see you guys real soon. Bye.